What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Renegade Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Matt Llewellyn. Matt, how you doing this evening?
Oh man, I'm still recovering from Thanksgiving weekend. Went up north to visit my mom. Lots of food, lots of drink. It was a good time, had by all. But it's good to be back and getting back on the grind. So sorry we missed everybody. We wanted to go and try to make it work. It's just funky with travel. So we're back and we're gonna break down this past game.
Yeah, a bit of a holiday hiatus, but that's all right. We're back. We're ready to get into it. 49ers won again. They've actually won twice since the last time we've talked.
Yep.
Before we get into it all, if you guys are tuning in on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join from there so we can see and interact with your comments. We're not ignoring you. We just can't see them. Like Raphael5629er says, hit like, hit subscribe, everyone. We appreciate all the support. We're back and ready to break it all down. Matt, this was what I've heard a lot of people use the term ugly. This was an ugly win. The 49ers found a way to get by 13-0. What was your initial take of this game?
This was a game that was hard fought, but to me, it was like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of game. There were certain things that I saw that I really liked, particularly on the defensive end of things, but offensively, there was some mistakes, particularly with the offensive line. They were just not good. And then obviously, news of Elijah Mitchell going down again is just something that's, we didn't want to have happen, but worst case scenario, it looks like a very similar injury to what he suffered in week 1.
So, I mean, yeah, the thing that really kind of hurts the most is that Kyle Shanahan came out on the podium after and goes, yeah, he looks like he kind of had his MCL sprain, but not as serious as earlier in the year. Couple weeks we're hoping, and then it comes out Monday morning. Oh, nope, 6 to 8 weeks. But if my math's correct, I think there's only 7 weeks or 8 weeks until the beginning of February, which is the Super Bowl. So at the very best case scenario, we're getting Elijah Mitchell back for the Super Bowl if the 49ers make the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, there's 6 games left in the regular season. They're probably not going to have the number 1 seed. You're looking at 8 weeks would be NFC Championship. So yeah, after that would be the Super Bowl. 2 weeks after that. So yeah, it looks like NFC Championship at the earliest. And it's unfortunate. It's not as bad in terms of where we drafted or where we drafted Elijah Mitchell in late round pick or whatever. But I think the fact that he has been a good player, we got to start looking at if he's maybe just injury prone. I mean, This is the second year in the league for him, second year of significant injuries, recurring injuries. And now it's, can he be relied upon? That's going to be something that we have to talk about going forward. But in the meantime, I guess it's Jordan Mason time, and he's going to be the primary backup to Christian McCaffrey, which also brings its own set of problems, which we can talk about too. When I talk about 2 steps forward, 1 step back, what's going on with the running back room to me is a step back. So we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. It sucks because Elijah Mitchell at times looked like the better of the 2 backs between him and Christian McCaffrey, which is kind of wild to say, but there were times where Christian McCaffrey just couldn't get it going and you'd switch it over to Elijah Mitchell and he's, busting off 4-yard, 5-yard runs. He's not the threat in the passing game that Christian McCaffrey is, but what he did for the 49ers offense just through the running game was really, really important, and it's going to be missed. Do you want to get into, I don't even know if you want to talk about this. We haven't discussed this. The former running backs comments, both of them that are now in Miami. Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, they both ended up on the injury report, so I don't need to beat that dead horse. We'll see what happens. I mean, Miami is a scary team. I think it's just a little bit, it's easy for players to take shots, and I think that Mostert did it more than Jeff Wilson Jr. did. I think Jeff Wilson Jr. was trying to stay a little more diplomatic, at least the way he was painted. But you have a guy like Mostert who held the team up for money and then is mad that they're kind of like, hey, why aren't you coming back? When he misses essentially 1.5 seasons out of 2 right after that. So I just thought it was funny that it seemed like Deebo Samuel called him out and was like, hey, like, keep it real, dude. Like, you said what you said, so it'll be interesting to see if that really affects the motivations going forward. But You know, it is what it is. Teams tend to do that. We saw it with Tyreek Hill when he went to Miami and was like, oh, Tua is the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen. So if Patrick Mahomes isn't safe from, strays, then I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo should be either. I just think that it's my feelings on Raheem Mostert and what he did, particularly after that playoff run, is a little known. It's one thing if you're coming up in a contract year, but he had just signed a new deal, a multi-year deal, and then because he overperformed in a couple of games, he wanted to redo that. And, that's one of those things where, hey, I'm all for players getting their money, but if you sign a contract, you sign a contract, dude. Like, you can't go back later and ask for more. That's just, especially not year one. So,
and it's like he had, with all due respect, been a journeyman in the NFL, largely getting by on special teams. And then he found a home with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, and I'll say Mike McDaniel's offense that really suited his skills. And he was able to turn into a player that teams wanted to fight for and bid for, I should say. And just so we're clear, his comments, we're not going to spend too much time on this because it is just kind of drama, but he said he spoke to Tyler Dunn and he said, this is the comments. Sorry, on KNBR. I thought I had the ones initially, basically saying we have more talent here. We have way better talent here. It's going to get spooky. We have a quarterback that can actually sling it. And then he basically implied that the 49ers used him sitting out 2020 or 2021, excuse me, against him when it was time to negotiate a contract, which no shit. That's what a team does.
That's hilarious. Obviously he hits free agency, right? He balls out in 2019, which was the first year of his 3-year deal. They redo it because he asked for money. The team restructures his contract. He misses a year and a half out of the next 2 years. And then you don't expect the team to be like, hey, dude, you were injured. We're not going to give you a ton of money.
Yeah.
He's offended by this somehow. I don't understand that. So I don't know. It is what it is. Raheem Mostert can sit over there and grab his hamstring or whatever he's doing. We'll see. I think the team has something for him. So, and honestly, I wasn't worried about the Miami running game as much as I am about, trying to keep a lid on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So
agreed. That's the real threat. And then he basically tried to walk it back, my comments were taken out of context. Like, there's really no context for there to be,
Well, and he tried to pawn it off as if like Ty Dunn doesn't know how to do his job.
Yeah.
Which that's a cheap way out because Ty Dunn, everything that I've seen from him, he knows how to do his job.
Yeah. He said on KNBR yesterday or this morning, excuse me, in regards to we have more talent here. I was speaking of in terms we have more talent here at this moment than what has been here in the past. Come on. I was with the Niners for several years. I know what their talent is. There's unbelievable talent on both sides of the ball and on special teams. I wasn't trying to take shots on anyone. When I was being asked those questions, I was looking at it as what Tua has done and what Tua has dealt with in the past. And a lot of people are doubting him and his ability, not the fact that Jimmy G can't sling the rock or anything like that. I would never, ever in a million years talk down on a player, specifically a guy like Jimmy, just because we've grown together when I was there. His family is like my family. I've been to his brother's wedding. His sister-in-law and my wife are the best of friends, which is why people took this like weirdly. I think that's why it caused so much controversy is like, you're the one that's going to say this? Like, that is kind of weird, but yeah, whatever. We could leave it in the past. If he even plays Sunday, probably up in the air. I don't know.
Listen, is anybody buying that?
No, not in the least.
Like when Lamar Jackson inevitably comes out for his apology tour after the tweet where he told a dude who, by the way, only said anything about football. That's all he talked about. And Lamar said this dude never smelt a football field. All he does is eat a dick. Like, listen, you people say things, right? People get up in their feelings. They just say stuff. This is the most media trained walk back that I've ever seen from Raheem Mostert. He knows that he stepped in it and now he has to walk it back. Doesn't matter. You stepped in it. There's shit on your carpet already. So I don't know why you think you're going to get away with that, but to just say, oh, I was talking about the talent on our team compared. No, you were not. Let's be real. You were not. This is just a classic walk back. right? Michael Jackson moonwalking right off the stage. So
it's funny because it's like we have more talent here now. That would have maybe been in context if you were there last year and the Niners whooped you, and now you're saying we have more talent here now this year.
Right. He doesn't know
No,
what the
you weren't
talent is.
there.
He just
Yeah.
got there.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. That's why I don't believe you when you say this stuff. And by the way, I don't think anybody really believes you. Maybe he's trying to convince himself, but I'm sure Mike McDaniels and everybody went back and talked to him and was like, dude, come on. The week before the game, really?
Yep.
So it's bulletin board material 101. I don't think the 49ers are going to forget it. And I think you better watch out with, as Ian Sharp pointed out, with Miami having both of their tackles out. That's not going to be a fun day for Tua, and maybe not a fun day for Mostert if he plays.
No, not at all. Last question on this, and we'll move on from the running back drama. We'll get back to the Saints game because this is what the show is actually about. Do you think this, in hindsight, now makes trading Jeff Wilson, the Elijah Mitchell injury, Christian McCaffrey's a little banged up? A lot of fans are saying, oh, this is proof the Niners shouldn't have traded Jeff Wilson. What's your take on it?
They should have traded Jeff Wilson. What were they going to do with him? Just stash? Where are you going to put him? We know what Jeff Wilson is. I'm actually more excited that Jeff Wilson is gone because now Kyle has no choice but to show us what Jordan Mason can do. Okay. Jordan Mason had 5 carries for 25 yards. He was running tough out there, and it was later in the game. And I think, that's something with Elijah Mitchell too. And we'll get into that with the Saints game and how I think that Kyle Shanahan is still trying to figure out how to use Christian McCaffrey properly. Because we seem to get heavy doses of him early, and then when that's not effective, then you're going to your normal offense, and then that's when we're seeing what the 49ers are used to, and why we're seeing Elijah Mitchell getting 5 yards a carry. So, but yeah, Jeff Wilson Jr., him of what I think a career high of like 600 yards or something. Again, still living off of that 0 blitz touchdown catch. And he did a great job of filling in with Elijah Mitchell injured as the starter. That's fantastic. But I mean, him coming out, and obviously Christian McCaffrey is a better player than him. What were they going to do? You had Elijah Mitchell that was coming back, right? And you could say, oh, this is why they shouldn't. Well, again, as I always say, you don't plan for your players to get injured. You don't build a roster based on, well, if this guy gets hurt. That's not how you do it. Typically, if you're worried about that dude so much, the 49ers go out and do what they do, and they trade picks to move up like they did with Trey Lance to replace who they thought was injury prone in Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what you do. This is a nothing thing for a second-rate running back, and he's having success because Mike McDaniels essentially runs the same scheme. Yeah. So any other team, I mean, it's the same thing with Raheem Mostert. How many teams with Mostert on before he came to the 49ers and had some success? Yeah. Any other team, we've seen it.
Simply because he's the latest running back. Nobody's saying the 49ers should have kept JaMycal Hasty. He's having some success down in Jacksonville. I mean, you can't say the same for Trey Sermon. I think he's got like 6 yards on the year, but still, there's
People
nobody
said
saying
the same
things.
thing when Carlos Hyde left and was having some success elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's always what you think. Oh, okay. Well, we should have kept this guy. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It doesn't matter.
And not to mention, he was an undrafted free agent that Kyle Shanahan turned into a starting, maybe lower end, yes, but starting caliber running back in the NFL. And he was able to get something.
They got
for
a pick.
Him. Exactly. That's a perfect story. And he asked to be traded. It's not like the 49ers were just sitting there twiddling their thumbs like evil geniuses and said, let's get something for this guy. He went to front office and said, hey, Christian's here. I'm not going to get the carries. I'm not going to get the stats that I was thinking I'm going to get. I want out. They did right by him. So whatever. I'm not mad at it. It's revisionist history to say they should have kept him, as if they could predict in 2 weeks, Elijah Mitchell 3 weeks would get hurt. What was your biggest takeaway from this game? The 49ers defense again holds another team, I should say, to a scoreless second half.
Yep.
Just insane.
Yeah.
What do you make for that?
I mean, that's fantastic. That, and it was much needed. Because my biggest takeaway from this game, beyond the defense, which we'll talk more about, is that offensive line has had some problems, particularly Slim Mike. Can we get this guy out of here? I mean, everybody's seen the play, right? The GIF play of him completely whiffing on a block and then standing there and doing like the little pivot thing or whatever, looking for
His
somebody
controller
else to block.
died.
It's just like, dude. And it's week after week after week after week after week. And it's sad because there are times in the running game where he does some really good things. But I mean, with the passing game and the need to keep Jimmy Garoppolo upright, Jimmy Garoppolo took a ton of damage this game. I mean, he took a ton of hits. And he's just out there. And by the way, let's look at, here's another thing too. Look at Brendel and Burford. They essentially start kissing each other. So the Saints stunt right there, spins off, and then these two end up kissing each other. It's like, how do you expect? And somehow Jimmy still gets the pass off, and that's just because they were just like, oh, we'll just leave Christian McCaffrey here. And you turn Jimmy Garoppolo getting hammered,
holding his head.
Yeah.
And what's Mike doing?
I mean, again,
it's
pretty bad.
It's almost laughable.
Right. It's
I don't know, man. I don't know what to
it's
make
unacceptable. And I think that, a lot of that is just, again, this, I don't want to take credit away from the Saints. Obviously, the Saints defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. It's the fact that they have to trot out Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. I mean, and we saw it too. I mean, even though we allowed Andy Dalton to have a pretty efficient game, and they were able to move the ball down the field a little bit, it's just you're not getting big chunk plays from Andy Dalton. So it's much like what we see here, except on a little bit of a worse level, where the defense just gets overexposed, and eventually that comes back and harms them. But that defense is actually pretty good. The problem comes with, the offensive line. Is this the tape that teams see and go, oh, well, if we stunt on these guards, do they not know how to hand off? Do they not know how to, move in space in a way that they're not going to be off balance when we do these moves? And, if that's the case, then the 49ers could be in trouble. So at least on that right side of the line.
They had their hands full all day. I just saw this tweet. I thought it was really cool. I didn't even know this. NFL and CBS. The last 4 times the Saints have been shut out this week, the 49ers. 2002, week 17, the 49ers. 1998, week 6, the 49ers. 1997, week 9, the 49ers. That's a trip.
By the way, what do all those teams have in common? No Drew Brees on any of those teams.
Yep. I was thinking 49ers. I'm like, yeah. That's true, because they're not getting shut out. That's for damn sure. No. Yeah. But my biggest takeaway in this game is Jimmy Garoppolo threw it more than 30 times, and they won. And he didn't turn the ball over. I know he tried. He definitely tried.
That's his 4th straight game. Although, yeah, he got an illegal contact and completely bailed him out on a disgusting-looking interception where he just threw it right to the guy.
Yeah. I don't know what he was looking at. I don't know if he was concussed. I'm actually surprised the independent spotter didn't pull him out. He was taking some pretty hard hits, especially early on in the game. And I think he came out afterwards and kind of said, not blatantly that the Saints were taking some cheap shots, but kind of hinting at the fact that you need to be smart as a professional with how you're taking these hits and how you're hitting the opposing player. Because I don't know, man. I know the Saints have a knack for being dirty. But in my opinion, it was on full display Sunday. They were taking late hits, low hits. I mean, Jimmy took a nasty hit to the knee. I was like, oh my God, there goes his ACL. He got up and he was kind of holding his knee for a bit. Luckily, he wasn't injured. I know Tim Kawakami, for the few of us that aren't blocked out there, tweeted during the game that Brock Purdy was warming up. Jimmy went and talked to Kyle Shanahan, and then Brock Purdy started warming up, and Jimmy was sitting down on the bench. And I was like, oh shit, don't tell me he's actually injured. We're going to have to see Brock Purdy. Luckily, it didn't come to that. I don't know what it was. According to Kyle Shanahan, he's a little more sore than normal. Take that for what it is. According to Jimmy, if you ask him, he probably broke his leg. I don't know. There's always this huge discrepancy in Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan when they talk about injuries.
Did you see the thing that Kyle said today?
No.
It'll be like, hopefully he has it worked out by Wednesday. Essentially being like, hopefully he like puts a Band-Aid on it by Wednesday.
When talking about Jimmy?
Yeah. He's like, he's sore. Hopefully he has it worked out by Wednesday.
That's funny.
So
That's
funny.
Juwan Jennings continues to step up after you've publicly called him out on this show a few times. And, I appreciate it, because who would have thought on a team with Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, now Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings is the one that's going to hurt you as a defense.
Yeah, and I'll tip my cap to him. He's doing a great job. He has definitely stepped up. The concentration on that touchdown catch after Tyrann Mathieu was able to tip that, which I want to put out here on the record, guys. I know some people were saying that was a good pass, good throw from Jimmy. That was a trash throw. You need to know where your boundaries are, and he had to throw that further in the back of the end zone away from Tyrann Mathieu and use the boundary as your ally. He essentially just pretended like Mathieu wasn't there and tried to get it to Juwan Jennings, and he was very lucky that that wasn't picked off, and even more lucky that Juwan Jennings had the concentration that he needed to catch that for the touchdown pass and still be in bounds, by the way, because he was on his back essentially when he caught that. So very much a great job from Jennings. And, it's another thing of like the opposing teams are taking away what the 49ers want to do. And I think Kyle Shanahan just doesn't know how to use Christian McCaffrey properly yet. Some of that with the Saints is going to be familiarity, because a lot of these players have played Christian McCaffrey in Carolina for the last few years, twice a year. And it's one of those things where we see a lot of heavy usage out of Christian McCaffrey early, and it doesn't seem to be super effective, right? I think they need to do a better job of mixing it up. There was a play, and I don't know if it counted as a pass or if it was called back, where Christian McCaffrey was lined up in the slot and Deebo was in the backfield, and Deebo was actually able to like scamper. I think it was like a 22-yard gain or something like that. Those are the situations that actually create a little bit of doubt in a defense's mind, not when you just have, you're in an I formation or whatever with two wide receivers and you have Juszczyk and then McCaffrey and then it's first down. I mean, I think most of us know 70% of the time that's going to be a handoff. Yeah. They need to really, really do a better job of mixing up plays. So,
yeah, I'm thinking of the goal line, or let me read this comment first, then I'll share my thoughts. 49ers throwback says, "Hey, Zach, what pissed me off the most about this game was the refs. No face mask on Ayuk, bad call on Kittle, and the PI on Lenore. It was all around bad officiating. I think maybe 60-40 Niners got a little bit of the worst end of it, but it was bad all around. The Saints got some missed calls. 49ers got lucky on some calls, like that interception that arguably should have been a pick six. Jimmy made a hell of an effort to make the tackle, if I remember correctly. But it was just bad officiating all around, both sides of the ball. Shit refs. What I wanted to talk about, though, was the 49ers defense and how many snaps the Saints had inside the red zone. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking 15 to 20 snaps, because they got, if I remember correctly, a PI as well. So they got another 3 chances at it. Like, it was insane the amount of snaps the Saints took inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5. I mean, they got all the way down to the 1 yard line. And then Fred Warner comes up and knocks that ball out. Alvin Kamara had never fumbled twice in a game. Well, he fumbled twice on Sunday. The 49ers defense was not having it. I mean, I hate to sound like, and I tweeted this after the game, like too fanatical, but I really feel like we're witnessing something like very special. And the only reason why I'm not 100% sure of that is that I go back to that Chiefs game, and I know they're a little beat up, but it's like when they did go against the best of the best, they didn't have an answer. So,
and that's why Miami is going to be a huge test. I mean, this is going to be a very huge test for them. And you're right. I mean, that the defense is doing something special. And the thing that I love to see is that no matter what happens at the end of a play, there's 7, 8, 9 defensive players in view. I think Ian Sharp points it out. The refs definitely missed an early jump on the Bosa sack. He definitely jumped. Bad officiating all the way around. I really would like to see the NFL finally commit to hiring all of their officials full-time year-round, have them go to seminars, have them go to training, have them really like step up and do this thing. They don't do that, and it becomes a problem. You need to have, this is why everybody's like, oh, this officiating is so bad. This officiating is so bad, right? In baseball, we have really like one guy that we know by name who was just absolutely horrendous. Any other baseball guy can tell you in here. I'm speaking, of course, of Angel Hernandez, who is the worst umpire I've ever seen in my life. But there's a lot of good umpires, and baseball, they actually get their guys year round. Now we could sit here and argue balls and strikes, but that's a perspective thing. And that's one of the hardest things that you can do is like, oh, I'm trying to pick up an 87-mile-an-hour slider that's starting in the zone and goes out of the zone and misses by like a half an inch. That's really going to be something that's really, really hard. I mean, robo umps technically, right? But in terms of like out or safe, fair or foul, the umpires are really good at that kind of thing. In the NFL, they need to be better. And I think that training would go a long way. So, but that notwithstanding, the PI on Lenore, that was kind of and really like, a tough one, barely any contact. That's not really something that you would call a foul on. The defense is doing phenomenal, and again, they're rushing to the ball. And I think that this defense is a little more ball hawkish than our defenses have been in the past. And so they're doing a good job popping the ball out. I think there was one play. Was it this week? At one point, it might have been an actual fumble or close to, where it looked like Dre Greenlaw almost broke his hand because he was punching at the ball so hard that like his wrist kind of twisted. And it's like, you kind of like cringe at that thing, but that's what they do. They go after the ball left and right, and it leads to a lot of things. And fumbles being what they are, and interceptions being what they are. We didn't get a pick, but we got, the couple of fumbles or whatever. So it was a good game overall, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The best way to explain it, just like you said, there's always 3 to 4 49ers immediately, 5 to 7 within 2 seconds. Like, it's insane how they swarm to the ball. And maybe it is that mentality that leads to a higher percent of injuries. I don't know. I'm not, I haven't analyzed it, but the way that they're able to stop players, force turnovers, at least this past Sunday, was really, really impressive.
Right. And even maintain their like their leverage. Like they're on the first Kamara fumble, a lot of people were dogging shoot, I'm drawing a blank now. Hufanga, sorry, for having Kamara dead to rights in the backfield. But the thing was, when he went to pursue him in the backfield, he at least kept outside leverage and forced Kamara back to the middle towards help. And that led to a fumble. So even when they don't exactly do the right thing, they typically tend to be in a good spot overall. So Anyway, what's your flip side, Zach?
The flip side is the offense. Once it gets crammed down into that red zone, into first and goal, second and goal, this past Sunday, things got ugly. And there's one play that sticks in my mind, and I don't know if it was designed or not, but I think it was 4th and goal. Jimmy Garoppolo takes that snap and shotgun, runs 2 yards and falls down. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. That was a pass play, and I think he had so little that I honestly don't even know. I want to watch the all 22 on that, but I have to imagine that it was like one of those typical one read Jimmy throw it right off the bat, and he was just so well covered that Jimmy couldn't throw that pass.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, the pass before that was a 3rd and goal to Juwan Jennings on the right flat, who got out right at the 1 yard line, couldn't get in, and Christian McCaffrey wide open, completely untouched on the other side of the field.
I think that was like I think on the progression that was just a late progression thing.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, even a great quarterback's going to struggle to get there down in the red zone. Now in the midfield, of course, you want him to come back and take a look at that. But this is still Jimmy Garoppolo we're talking about. So I don't think he was ever going to get there. That's
true. All right. I'm not faulting him too much. Like I said, he threw 37 times, and this was a win for the 49ers. If I remember correctly, they don't win that often when he throws 30 plus. So I'll take it. I'll take it with a big smile on my face. The lack of a running game, did that concern you at all? Or did that just speak to how talented the Saints defense is, you think?
I mean, it wasn't overall the most efficient day for the 49ers, but they still had 96 yards rushing. So it's not like they didn't do anything on the ground. It just came a little more hard than it needed to. And a lot of that was because, again, like I said, I think Kyle is still trying to adjust to Christian McCaffrey and how best to use him and how best not to be obvious when you want to use him. So Christian McCaffrey had 11 carries for 32 yards, but a lot of that stuff was like between the tackles, or you're, motioning Kyle Juszczyk to the outside of the formation right before you throw a toss. And it's like, okay, I mean, we know, right? If even occasionally, like fake the toss and then have like a tunnel screen set up on the other side or something. So that way the defense has to stay honest. But right now they don't, because I think it's pretty obvious if we all were, doing a watch along, that most of us would be able to sit there and probably 80-90% of the time be able to at least call run or pass based on what we know about Kyle and his offense. And I think that that's one of those things where again, just like Trent Williams tipping, if it's going to be run or pass, it's not everything, but it's not nothing either. So the truth lies somewhere in between. I think that Christian McCaffrey is much better than what's being shown. And I think part of that is Kyle's just trying to figure out how to use him. That you don't have a guy that runs, passes, and throws for a touchdown in a game versus the Rams all of a sudden just be like not good. And we can obviously see it. He's getting hit in the backfield and then still churning and making something happen. So if we can kind of extend where he's actually getting first contact and actually get him in space, that's the thing. Christian McCaffrey needs to be in space, and they're kind of just running him into people, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. And then as soon as he got that knee injury, he looked uncomfortable. He looked like maybe he wasn't quite sure the severity of that injury. And I was surprised he went back in, to be honest. I think maybe out of necessity, because they really didn't have anyone else. But
I think it looked like one of those things where maybe he hit it.
Yeah.
And like it was just uncomfortable, it was just one of those things where maybe his knee was just bothering him, not anything structural. Obviously, they put him back in the game. It really didn't keep him from doing what they needed him to do in terms of being able to run out there. Although they did use him more sparingly in the second half. I think that, him, again, get him in space. The more you correct, it's the same thing we said with Trey Lance, right? Get Lance in space if you want to run him. If you're running these powers between the tackles always, it's just not, you're going to lend guys people are going to be around your knees. People are going to be around your legs. I think that Kyle really needs to do a better job of adjusting his running game. I think, again, and we talked about this before, I think his running game is super rudimentary. I don't really like it. I wish that he dialed up things that were more innovative. I think where he really innovates is the passing game. So I'd like to see him pay a little more attention, pay a little more mind to his scheme, because it looks like the same thing every week, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And when it doesn't work, it's ugly. It's ugly, and he just tries to pound it and pound it and pound it, and there's almost nothing there. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the Dolphins game, but this game, 13-0, the style in which the 49ers won, does that matter to you at all?
No, I think good. Well, only to the extent that this team is showing that they can win ugly, and good teams win ugly. And the fact that it was 13-0, I hate to give him credit, but, David Lombardi is right in the fact where he says, listen, winning by 13 in any game is hard to do. So it doesn't matter how you do it. I mean, the defense pitched a shutout. You'd like to see the offense, pitch in a little more and be a little more efficient. But when you do have games like this, it's nice to know that your defense is going to end up kicking ass. So next week, I expect it to be a little bit on the opposite end. Again, as good as our defense is, it's going to be hard to keep a lid on that much speed. So they're going to need a lot more out of the offense against Miami. So maybe it's push coming to shove,
Yeah. I've seen a lot of different takes from fans on Twitter and stuff saying, oh, it was the Saints. The 49ers should have beaten them by 20. It should have been, they should have put up at least 25 points on them or whatever. I don't necessarily think that matters, especially considering week 1, week 3. These are these types of games that the 49ers just a few weeks ago couldn't win, or didn't win, I should say. Those styles, and where it really is who's going to make the extra play, who's going to step up when they need it to. And back then they couldn't do it. And now they did do it. I know they won by technically 2 scores, but for most of the game, it was like a 1-score game, so I don't think necessarily style points matter in the NFL. They got the dub. Nobody's going to be thinking about, oh, they only won this game if they go all the way, or even, in 2-3 weeks if they keep winning. And it seems like they always have one of these types of games per year. I don't know which one last year, but I know 2019, they had like 9-0 win against Washington in that mud rainstorm, so it doesn't really matter. It's not college football. You're not getting extra points for blowing out an opponent by 50 points or whatever. It is what it is. I don't see why there's any reason to be upset. And then I thought it was interesting at the end when you saw the camera go into the locker room, Kyle Shanahan said, offense, we knew it was going to be that type of game. We knew we were going to have to fight through it. Apparently they were expecting a really tough test from the Saints defense, and he was proud with 13 points. So, all right. I like it. 49ers improved to, what are they, 7-4 now?
7-4.
7-4.
They
got a
are
little bit
the
of
3 seed in the NFC right now as it stands.
3 seed NFC, number 1 in the NFC West, and Seahawks lost for the second straight week to the Raiders in overtime. Talk about a win.
By the way, that's the blueprint for the 49ers. I mean, for Jacobs to have 303 yards of total offense, I mean, if they got to figure out what was going on there. And then a house call in overtime. Just, I mean, absolutely wild. So I think we were all Raiders fans for like 3 hours. So nice to see.
Which it was a trip to me that game was not broadcast here. I had to go find a stream of it. Like, I've never once, living in the Bay Area my entire life, not had a Raiders game broadcasted here. But hey, Seattle and Vegas, apparently we're not the market for that anymore. I don't know, but I had to find it online. I found it nonetheless. And I just want to say before we move on, it's hilarious that the Raiders declined Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option, and then he has, his best season.
Yeah.
Maybe that motivated him.
I mean, that's hilarious. But I mean, you don't pay running backs. They can probably find another guy. So
yeah, maybe he'll go to the Rams. I don't know. They need a running back pretty bad.
They need a lot of things. And,
that's true.
I mean, honestly, the news is just bad. I mean, who knows if and when Stafford's going to come back? Cooper Kupp is out. Aaron Donald just suffered a high ankle sprain. I mean, this team is falling apart. They're 3-8. I mean, I kind of feel bad for all of the Rams fans online that are trying to come at 49ers and then holding up last year's ring. And it's like, I hope that pays the telephone bill for another year or whatever, keeps you warm at night, all that good stuff. Cause I mean, we're talking about old stuff. So this is 2022, your team's washed, and they have no picks. So, I mean, Jalen Ramsey is washed. I saw, and I know Travis Kelce's really good, but Travis Kelce cooked Jalen Ramsey on that touchdown. And there's no reason why a tight end in the open field should be cooking an elite lockdown corner. So, yeah, Rams struggle bus.
It's funny. They went all in for 1 year, man. 1 year. And like you texted me the other day, you wouldn't be surprised if Stafford retires at the end of this year. So we'll see. I mean, the Lions are going to have 2 top 10 picks.
I mean, you see how upset his wife is after the first concussion.
Yep.
Then he has a second one. A lot of people forget that Kelly Stafford had to have brain surgery. She had a tumor. She doesn't mess around with brain stuff. And if the wife is not happy, I mean, it's not a situation where I think Matthew Stafford is as competitive as Tom Brady is, where Tom Brady will literally throw away his family because he wants to play. I think if his wife really asked him to, I think Matt Stafford would walk away.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I saw the quote. We don't have to get into it too much. Quote from Jimmy Ward on KNBR today. Yeah, I'm going for agency. Obviously, the 49ers haven't offered me anything. I mean, it's the middle of the season. They historically don't do this during the year, and he should be here long enough to know that. We'll see what happens.
This is more of the noise thing, like your band on your shirt. You make a lot of noise to see what happens. But I will say this: Jimmy Ward's on the wrong side of 30.
Yep.
So I don't know if he gets brought back.
By the way, I just want to say, I told myself after this offseason, I wouldn't buy any Deebo Samuel because that whole situation rubbed me the wrong way. But Inspector Dabbit just had this, and I had to get it because it was just too clean. So if it was anyone else, I would appreciate a little more. I'm not mad at Deebo. Do what you got to do. The way he went about it rubbed me the wrong way. But I still root for him, obviously.
Not having nearly the season he had last year either.
No,
unironically.
I think somebody commented that earlier. Like, talk about a down year.
Yep.
Oof.
He's second on the team in receiving. He's really bad in the running game. Hasn't been nearly as effective. So good payday for him, but it's pretty clear that, he's just at this point a secondary option. Brandon Ayuk is the guy in the running game or in the passing game. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is going to be the do-it-all kind of gadget guy. So what are you left with?
Yeah. Do you think they use him more in the backfield? I mean, like you said, he hasn't really had much success this year, though. Do you think they continue to try it with Elijah Mitchell being out?
I'm sure they're going to give him his 1, 2, 3 carries a game. But at the same time, Deebo hasn't been doing what he needs to do as a wide receiver. I know this whole wide back thing is catching on, but at the end of the day, if you're relying on Deebo to be a gadget guy rather than a wide receiver, then you're not, what are you really doing with him? It's just fortunate there are so many other weapons on the team that you don't need him to be that all-world guy. And I think a lot of that comes back to, again, like I said, Deebo, and Ian Sharp's pointing it out, Deebo's hamstring getting worked on between plays. He is not in good shape. He is a weight guy. He is a heavy guy. He is a guy that needs to be on a strict diet and off-season conditioning program. And as we saw with him in the club going, and him doing all this stuff, he wasn't in good shape. He looked tubby when he came to camp. I said as much. And hey, as a fellow fat guy, I call it like I see it. You know what I'm saying? So it's always a concern with him. Even his college coach was concerned about it. Like, you got to be on Deebo about his weight. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's a problem. He's definitely having a down year. I think that it's pretty clear that Brandon Ayuk is the better pure wide receiver. So at least Brandon Ayuk's having a good year.
Yeah. I agree. Brandon Ayuk, total breakout year. Finally, he's getting that trust as the number one wide receiver. He's really good. He is a very, very good receiver. Most teams would kill to have a player of Brandon Ayuk's caliber.
And I would say if we had a quarterback that didn't, leave so much food on the table, that Brandon Ayuk would be getting Deebo sized with how much he would be able to eat.
Yeah.
So his route running is just crazy good. We didn't talk about the Cardinals game. Yeah, the Monday night game. Where he caught the touchdown pass, and he absolutely cooked that corner on that end zone route where he faked it outside, immediately pivoted, turned it inside. It was super good. So he's been outstanding this season. Another 5 catches for 65 yards for him, and it looks like Brandon Ayuk is the clear number one.
Yeah. It's great. It's great to see because we've all kind of thought of him as this caliber player, but we haven't seen it come to fruition. Well, this year it is, and he's on pace for 1,000 yards, and he deserves it. He really deserves it. We're going to be wrapping these up soon, but before I do, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. This is per Fox NFL. It's got the 49ers schedule and the remaining games. How many wins do you see on this screen, Matt? Dolphins, Bucks, Seahawks, Commanders, Raiders, Cardinals.
I see at the bare minimum, worst case scenario, 4 more wins. 4 more wins.
Wow.
I could see them losing to the Dolphins. I could also see them maybe dropping one to the Seahawks coming off of a short week against the Bucks. By the way, I think that's also what played a part in the 49ers not getting flexed into Sunday Night Football, as was announced earlier today. It will instead be the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers. But those are probably the 2 games. We always struggle to go and play in Seattle, and then you have 4 days to do it, right? That makes it really tough. But the Bucks just lost to the Browns. I'm not impressed by them at all. The Commanders stink, the Raiders stink, and the Cardinals stink. 4-2 should be the bare minimum. Ideally, I'd like to see 5-1 I really do worry about the Dolphins. I think that that's a tough one. But 4-2, 5-1. This team should be 11 or 12 wins.
Yeah, the Dolphins, I think, is the toughest game left, aside from going to Seattle, which the Raiders just proved. For me, if the Raiders can beat the Seahawks in Seattle, I know it's different, not a divisional game, but it's doable. Obviously, it's doable. The Seahawks aren't some Chiefs-type team. But
of course. If it was a normal week, then, I wouldn't be worried about it at all.
That's true,
I just think that on a short week, it's really hard. And I also think that, Geno Smith is going to come back down to earth.
Yeah.
I really don't think that he can sustain. Going into the game yesterday against the Raiders, Geno Smith had the second highest quarterback rating in the NFL, and I just don't think that's sustainable for him.
No. Also, that Seahawks game, 2 days before Christmas Eve, 3 days before Christmas. There's a lot going on. We'll see how the 49ers handle it. The Dolphins, I think, is such a tough matchup because of what they can do on the outside. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They got a good tight end. Tua's playing better. The speed, I think, is what's going to hurt the 49ers the most. And that's kind of what the 49ers have struggled with all year, is that number one receiver, especially when he's really fast or physical. So we'll see what the 49ers can do this Sunday against the Dolphins. But
yeah, and we'll get more into it in the game preview, but I think that the two Miami tackles being out is going to play a huge role. And I think that Mike McDaniels is going to be able to game plan for that. I would suspect that we see a lot of screen game to kind of take some of the pressure off of those linemen who are trying to block for Tua. I don't know if you saw, but when Teron Armstead went out, I think Tua was sacked on 4 of the next 9 offensive plays. So it definitely made a difference. So the 49ers, can do a great job of holding those guys close to the line of scrimmage, not getting anything over the top, then it's doable. Let's answer some of these questions. David Hasselhoff, do we think we beat the Bucs? I think they beat the Bucs. I'm not impressed with them at all. He says, but Seahawks can put up points. They didn't against us. They scored 7. 49ers throwback says Commanders have a good pass rush. Yeah, but they're also running out Taylor Heineke. So there's that too.
Yep.
So, and we have a good run defense. So if you take away Brian Robinson and you make Taylor Heineke beat you, I think that's a very winnable proposition.
Shout out to Kobe Brissett, by the way. I thought he did a pretty good job filling in for Deshaun Watson. He who shall not be named.
Massage Watson comes back next Monday against his old team, the Texans.
Yep.
All right. By the way, did Davis Mills get benched?
He did.
Oh.
You want to know what hurts about that game? I don't know if you saw the text on Sunday. I needed that game to go over 47 points. And for the longest time, it was stuck at like 37 or something like that, right? Well, Texans get a touchdown, and they end up getting a touchdown and a field goal, but it was only, they went for 2, they didn't get it. So I think it was only 9 points. I think it was stuck at like 46 or 45, something like that, right? The Texans have the ball. They're driving it. They're already on Miami side of the 50. They get to the 40, and then the quarterback throws an interception, and there's like a minute left. So then Miami just takes 3 knees and it's over. I'm like, all I needed was a field goal. All I needed was a field goal, but that's game, man. That's football.
That'll teach you that Vegas ain't Vegas because people take the house.
Exactly. Yep. Same. Okay. And also part of that parlay was Chargers and Cardinals over 49. Guess how many points exactly they scored?
49,
baby. 25-24 Chargers with the 2-point conversion.
I will say this, though. I mean, I give a lot of grief to Brandon Staley, but him going for 2 on that play, going for the win, I like that. That
was gutsy. I like that a lot. Randy Daytona says Allen and Mills have the same stats in the last 4 games. That was courtesy of Nick Wright, and there was some cherry picked ass stats in there. If I not to, I'm no Josh Allen defender. I don't care, if he's playing trash. They're very cherry picked stats. DJ Malone missed your question.
Could the Dolphins game be a shootout? It absolutely could. Absolutely could. And the 49ers will definitely need to score points to win this game, because eventually, for as good as the 49ers defense is, if I was a betting man, I would not bet that the 49ers hold the Dolphins scoreless in this second half. I'm just saying.
It's going to come to an end, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me feel good is Brian Allen is not on the 49ers roster this time.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick is not on the Dolphins roster. We got absolutely worked last time. It was like 53-14 or something like that.
Yeah, some insane
game.
finish.
We need to get that. We need to exercise that demon. So,
all right, before we wrap up, we got to shout out today's sponsor, which is MyBookie. Shout out to MyBookie. Just talking about the ups and downs of betting. It's extremely fun. Even if you guys can't win every bet, just adding that little extra fun to a football Sunday, football Monday, football Thursday is extremely fun. Go over to mybookie.ag right now. Sign up with promo code Hive. It's on the screen, HIVE. You'll get your first deposit 50% matched. And now through tomorrow is a 1x playthrough rate, meaning you only have to bet the same amount that you deposited instead of having to bet 15, 25 times like other sites do. Through tomorrow, get that bet matched. Get the deposit 50% match and take advantage of that one-time playthrough rate. Also, send us proof of your new account and deposit, and you'll automatically be entered to win a Christian McCaffrey jersey. Winner will be announced sometime at the beginning of December. I haven't put an exact date on there. I want to make sure we get as many people entered as we can. I want you guys to have a shot at this jersey. Christian McCaffrey is a 49er guy. Guys, take advantage of this raffle. Get entered to get his jersey. Could be a Christmas present for yourself. You never know. Mybookie.ag, promo code Hive. Get that first deposit, 50% match. Take advantage of the one-time playthrough rate. Matt, you got a couple questions in here, and then we can wrap up. Let's see. Do you think Cliff Kingsbury gets fired?
He should. He absolutely should. I think it's really hard because they just extended him this last offseason, but it's a tire fire in Arizona. He's clearly lost that locker room. You got his quarterback and yelling at him throughout games, coming out this week telling him that they are schematically fucked on that fourth down play. It's just very much not a good thing for them. So I think that he should. And I know DJ Malone said it down here. Sean Payton's name getting thrown around from the Cardinals head coaching job. I mean, I don't think that Sean Payton's going to waste his time. I think that Kyler Murray at this point has nuclear level heat. I think that he's clearly a head case and that a self-respecting coach is not going to want to do that. I really think, honestly, if it doesn't really turn around for the Chargers, I think that would be the ideal spot for Sean Payton and taking over where Justin Herbert is there. Ton of talent. That's a Super Bowl roster ready to go. I think Sean Payton can come in and make that team look really good, really quick. So
I was just going to say he's chomping at the bits to coach Justin Herbert.
We beat your team twice this year. Get out of here, 3-8.
That's funny. 49 Starbucks says Terrell Owens wine, Zach. Terrell Owens wine ain't paying the bills around here, so shout out to them. But
they're not paying the bills anymore.
Nope.
We're not sponsored by them.
I mean, yes and no.
Do I burn a bridge?
No, definitely don't.
Okay.
But we're just not shouting them out. Terra Dome says, I was hearing Peyton and the Chargers, hoping it for Domingo. Wow, I messed up that entire sentence. Hoping that job's for Domingo. Okay. Well, hey, who knows where Domingo ends up going?
Very much. Yeah.
All right. With that said, I think we're going to wrap things up.
By the way, I don't want you guys to think anything about the company. I was just going to point out a certain TMZ video with a certain TO on it this week.
Yeah. That shit was crazy.
I don't want to burn that bridge if I want to,
got you.
Bring that up there. Yeah.
I got you. All right, guys. Follow us on Twitter. Our handles are below on the screen. Follow RGS Pod. Follow 49ers Hive. And if you sign up, make a deposit using code Hive for mybookie.ag. Send us proof so you can be entered to win a Christian McCaffrey jersey. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us tonight. Thank you for sticking with us over the holiday hiatus that Matt and I had. Got sick. Holidays happen. Work happens. But we're back now, and we're not going to go anywhere ever again. No. I promise.
Yeah, we'll be back this weekend to do the preview show for the Miami Dolphins. We'll break it on down Sunday. And then the week after that, all of us are going to be together. It's going to be, I think, probably the first ever live Red and Gold Standard podcast. So all of us are going to be together in person. We're going to be there for the Bucs game. And we'll throw out, the night before where we're all going to be. If you guys want to come down, say hi, clink glasses, share a toast, have a drink, whatever. We'll all be there. So really excited to be back. Really excited for this stretch run of the season. We got some important games coming up. So thank you as always for joining us. For Zach and myself, we love having you here every week. So until next time, go Niners.